Hey everyone, this is Kieran. Today's exercise is looking at how to improve our thigh strength, so specifically the quadriceps muscles. They're the ones up on top of our thigh. Super common muscle to have problems with after knee injuries or even long-term knee injuries. We know that exercising these muscles can give some relief to certain types of knee pain as well. So if that sounds like something you might need, whether it's a relief from knee pain or to strengthen these thigh muscles up, then you'll find this is a really nice exercise variation to kind of bridge the gap between really easy stuff and really hard stuff. So if you like this content, please subscribe below. Hope you find it useful. So where I find a lot of people will struggle is bridging this gap between a couple things. One would be, say, getting down into a lunge. So if I just move the bench out of the way for a moment, that would be kind of getting down into these kinds of positions, right? This could be something simple like an exercise focus where I'm going to go up and down, or I'm going to go walk in that position. Or it could be I just need to pick something up off the ground and sort of, real life scenarios. And I need to be comfortable getting down and getting back up. Equally, some people are going to struggle with some squat depth. So for example, if I was going to squat down, pick something up off the ground, or just hang out down here, I need to get a sense of, well, if I can't do it, is it because of weakness in my thigh muscle? And we're talking about the quadricep muscles at the front here. They're a common muscle to lose strength in after a knee injury. And it's not necessarily that the injury causes the weakness unless you've actually injured the thigh muscle. If you've injured the joint though, what we see sometimes is the swelling creates inhibition. And the inhibition means that it's hard to access the full potential of the muscle. And a really nice way to think about it is gears in a car. We've got 5 gears, and we know that, let's say, gear 1 is going to be a little lower intensity, and gear 5 is more intensity. Your body will protect you from getting up to those higher gears to try and, at least theoretically, keep the joint safe. So after an injury though, you have to relearn the skill of utilizing that muscle again. How do I get to gear 4 and 5 again? It's not a given that you'll get there, you need to progress it to that point. And that progression is a really common deficit that I see in long-standing knee issues or in just muscles that haven't quite been rehabbed fully. So this is a nice exercise to progress into some harder lunge variations like Bulgarian split squats. I can link those up here if you want to have a look at that. We also have some other variations around an elevated split squat. Put that one over here. And so what do I call this? It's called an offset squat. So it's not quite a lunge, it's not quite a squat. But what you can do is control your depth. Now, you could use anything. The reason I like the bench is because I can get around the angle of the side of the bench here. So if I show you guys my left leg first, basically, I'm going to go down onto the bench. So you could start from the bottom, and this leg's a little bit back, so it's not quite a lunge. This leg's in the front, so it's a little more like a squat. And then I just have to try and come up. And if this is difficult enough, even with body weight, or it's pain reproducing, depending on the type of pain, definitely get in touch with a local therapist, get some diagnostic stuff around it, make sense of it. Typically, if it's a chronic injury though, and the pain that you're working with is kind of tolerable and doesn't flare up afterwards, then that's okay. But if there's no reason for your pain and it's not making sense, please go see someone local. If you're getting some discomfort though, raise the height of the object, and that reduced depth typically will be enough to alleviate someone's symptoms and make it feel comfortable. And then equally, what we can start to do is load. So I've got a 20 kilo kettlebell here. If I switch around, you just hold it on this side. If you held it on the other side, the leg would get in the way. You wouldn't quite be able to allow it to hang. What this weight's going to encourage is these muscles to start to move towards that grade 4-5. So we call them high threshold motor units. And a high threshold motor unit only comes to life as a muscle gets towards failure. It doesn't have to be at failure, but you have to feel that they're effortful reps. And so that's kind of the trick. It's the effortful aspect. That's when we start getting more of that percentage recruitment of these bigger high threshold motor units. Equally, you don't necessarily have to go towards that end. You could do it early on with a heavy weight. So this 20 kilos might feel more effortful at the very beginning, and so I'm more likely to recruit those units. Like I said, that's a skill, right? Unless you expose yourself to that kind of stimulus, you're not going to get that recruitment because you just don't need to. You'll get away with using your low threshold motor units. And those are more like active daily stuff, things that are less intense. And intensity is relative, right? And it's also a little bit age dependent too, depending on your activity levels and other cognitive aspects as well. That being said, someone could have a lot of fear or apprehension after a sporting injury, and the thought of that happening again can be enough to hold the system back as well. So you might have to work through those sort of feelings of apprehension. And this is a nice, safe place to do it, right? So if I grab the 20 kilos and then I come up. And the reason I like this is because my right leg, my front leg, is having to do most of the work. And that means that I'm really asking that thigh muscle to do most of it. Are there other muscles helping out? Sure. So I've got my calf muscles, my soleus and gastroc down in here. I've got my glute muscles back here. I've got some shoulder muscles kicking in. Could this be a shoulder rehab exercise as well? Sure. But really focuses into here. If I wanted to get it more into here, into my hip, I would just lean forward more. If I want it to be more into the thigh, I try and be more upright. And so that little tweak can sort of modify it a little bit based on what you want to get out of it. But for most people, I'm going to encourage upright, have the thigh. If I want to get something more into the hip muscles, I'll choose some other exercises. Just because they're stronger and typically need more load for the high threshold motor unit. So if I tip forward like this, that now is a lot more of my hip. If I stay upright, that's a lot more of my thigh. Cool, so straightforward enough exercise. You're going to modify with the height of the object, make it higher if it's feeling too hard or not tolerable. Drop down to a height that's roughly like a regular chair height or a bench height. Have that be your goal. Add some weight. Once you can do this version with a reasonable amount of weight, I'd say reasonable being, probably about sort of 20% of your body weight, then move into some of the harder versions like your Bulgarian split squats and potentially the elevated split squats, depending on what depth you can do them at. Again, I've linked those before. I hope you guys found this useful. I hope you learned some new thoughts around how to get muscles to activate. We need high intensity sometimes, and after injuries, especially long-term injuries, we really need to relearn those skills of high threshold motor unit recruitment. They don't just happen. You have to draw it out with a certain amount of effort, a certain amount of load, and a certain type of prescription. And there's some other conversations around fast or ballistic movements as well. Not the discussion for today, but a really important piece of any rehab program or any strength program as well, particularly as we age, because these things we can lose as we age. Some of it's a use or lose it, and some of it unfortunately is the natural aging process. But you do look at some curves, and for people that maintain this type of ability with strength training, it really doesn't drop down to levels that are functionally affecting someone in a negative way later in life. So you can start at any age and start to slow down that progression. All right, I will catch you guys next time with some more content. Thanks. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.